IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to the IVM Podcast Network. Wow, we're dealing with some stuff, aren't we? The COVID-19 scare we're facing in India and the world has, it's really changed our lives, hasn't it? But it's also seriously impacted our ability to create podcasts and to get them out to you on schedule. Over the next few weeks, I'd like to ask for your patience if episodes are delayed or postponed. We're also going to be doing many of the recordings remotely, like this one, for example, right? And sound quality is going to be a little uneven while we're facing this time, right? If you want to listen to discussions about COVID, we have had conversations on Cider Says, the Prakati Podcast, Thale Harate, All Things Policy, the Rapid Coach, and other shows as well, right? So, please do continue to stay tuned, and we will be talking about this stuff, and we'll be talking about life in general. Also want to thank our sponsors this week, HDFC Life and Paytm Money. So let's get on with this, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
You've tuned into a show called Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch, and you were expecting a spoiler-free episode. So there are many spoilers on this episode. Kripya ध्यान दीजिए.
This is Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch. This is Aniruddha, and I'm sitting here with my better half, Janice and Akarsh. Hi, Janice.
Hi, Ani. So long since I saw you.
How's it going? What are you watching nowadays?
I don't know. You say what you're watching nowadays. You know I come to you for all my recommendations.
Actually, what I'm watching right now, and it's blowing my mind, and I can't wait to speak about it soon, is Succession.
Yes, we're both. Oh, how are you also watching Succession? I'm also watching Succession.
Yeah, Janice, check Succession out. It's really cool. You know about this show, right? It's on Hotstar.
This is what happens when we have very long working days and then we have to record our podcast.
We talk rubbish. If the person is tuning into our show for the first time today, they are not coming back because they're like, the husband-wife duo is completely cuckoo.
Yeah, and this is without any intoxication. सोच हम intoxication के बाद कैसे होंगे?
मैं तो intoxication करता ही नहीं हूँ तेरा But moving on, Diwali is around the corner, and we thought that this was a good time to revisit Indian shows we love. For the uninitiated, Janice and I had done the episode on Telecrime and Made in Heaven a few weeks ago because we started our Indian shows we love sort of subcategory of Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch with those two shows, and we were really waiting to reach a point where we wanted to speak about another show as much as we did then, and we found that show. It's called The Family Man, and it's on Amazon. The Love Family Man, but I think apart from that as well, I think what's interesting about the entire web space in India currently, Janice, is that I feel like now we've entered phase 2.
Yeah.
It's like Marvel, phase 1, phase 2. It's like phase 1 was all about setting up new shows, sort of content creators coming up with ideas, not knowing what's going to work, what's not going to work. A lot of it worked. Season 1 of Sacred Games worked big time. I can't say the same about season 2, but Inside Edge worked big time. Mirzapur worked big time.
I even enjoyed Breathe.
Breathe was a fairly well-made show, and now we are reaching a point where all of these shows are going to have their seasons 2 coming out. So there's going to be an Inside Edge season 2, Mirzapur season 2. There is going to be Breathe season 2. If you think of the best shows you've ever watched, you'll realize they had great season 2. And I think that's also why Succession is getting so much acclaim at the moment.
Shush, don't ruin it. We've got to still finish. We're like literally only 3 episodes in, guys, because, unlike everyone else, we don't like to. So HBO has this thing. HBO doesn't put out all its episodes together. So literally we've been waiting for the finale to air to finally be able to binge watch the entire show as well.
Sure. But I'm saying that what is happening with Succession is that in the first season, it was this sort of a underdog show which came out and, sort of took a lot of us by surprise, and it was a show that won a lot of accolades. And I also think its popularity grew slowly over a period of time. So by the time season 2 came out, it already had a loyal sort of fan base. And now those fans are just going nuts because season 2, I believe, and from whatever I've watched so far, has just basically taken the show to an all-new level. But coming back to Indian shows, like I said, there's new seasons of Inside Edge, Breathe, and Mirzapur coming out
next year.
There's some really cool stuff that TVF has been making over a period of time. So, I mean, of course, there's always Permanent Roommates and TVF Tripling, which was one of their first few shows that came out about 4-5 years ago, which are still out there.
And since then, they've also gone on to make, their show Girls Hostel gets a lot of acclaim. I mean, that has a loyal fan following. There's also The Kota Factory, which I believe is really
excellent. Good, and we are yet to watch.
Yeah, then of course, there's another show which we're going to talk about on this episode, which is Yeh Meri Family.
Which is also available on Netflix.
Basically, guys, this entire episode, for all of you who keep writing into us, I mean, I get a lot of Instagram DMs saying, hey, what is this? You and your husband don't watch Indian shows or what? The truth of the matter...
I'll tell you
what. The truth of the matter is that Aniruddha and I actually pretty much sample everything that's out there.
Yeah.
If we don't go beyond the second or third episode, then pretty much, we've not really enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
And we don't... See, our entire philosophy also on Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch is that we don't want to come into the studio and piss on shows that we don't like. Because why waste on time on that, right? There's enough good material, good content, great shows out there. We'd rather focus on giving you guys the recommendations rather than giving you reviews.
Also, I'm a functional screenplay writer who needs jobs and wouldn't want to shit on, people I might be working with in future.
Also, I'm a YouTuber who also does a lot of celebrity shows. So again, don't want to be pissing on people who I might be interviewing in the near future.
You don't have to say, because everyone knows about all the great stuff you do now.
No, baby, just you. Meko yaad dilana padta hai.
But right, so this episode, the main focus is going to be on The Family Man. It's a new show that's been created by Raj and DK. Then they went on to make Shore in the City, which got a lot of critical acclaim.
Film.
Which I loved completely. They also made this really interesting film called 99, which is actually up on Netflix.
Then there's the Wacko Go Goa Gone.
There's Go Goa Gone. And,
which I think now I feel like if I watched it now, I would find a lot funnier than I did when I first watched it.
Yeah, but I also think that Raj and DK's sensibilities are tailor-made for a web audience, because I think they bring in a slightly sort of Western sensibility to all their stories and films. They are what you call urban filmmakers, which is great.
They're also very slick. I mean, even though I didn't like A Gentleman.
Nobody liked A Gentleman, Janice.
I liked the soundtrack.
The soundtrack was fabulous.
I'm saying that even though the film didn't work for me, but I'm saying there were lots of slick sequences in there. Like, The Gentleman was a well shot, well sort of presented, stylish film. Content great nahi tha, wo dusri baat hai.
Yeah, but so essentially what I'm saying is that Raj and DK making a web series is a interesting idea to begin with, and then they have somebody like a Manoj Bajpayee.
Oof.
And this is something we had discussed in our earlier episode, that the best thing about some of the best web shows that India is producing is that it's giving the platform to some of India's best actors who don't really always get the meatiest parts in Bollywood. So whether it's a Pankaj Tripathi in Mirzapur or a Nawazuddin Siddiqui in Sacred Games of Season 1.
Or the brilliant Shefali Shah
in Delhi Crime, or the entire Made in Heaven starcast. Watching a Manoj Bajpayee over 10 episodes is such a fucking education. So Manoj Bajpayee is fantastic. The show's called Family Man, and we'll be delving deeper into the show on the other side of this break.
Remember the last vacation you took? What about the one you took 3 years ago? Okay, how much do you really remember? It's a question I've asked myself often over a decade of traveling the world. Hey, I'm Utsav, and I do not travel the world for a living. I have a full-time job and responsibilities, but I have made traveling the world a priority. Priority enough that I negotiate extra leave in my job contracts, obsessively track my frequent flyer miles, and I'm willing to take off at the sight of a cheap ticket. Yes, I am cheap. I have lived and worked in 3 countries. I understand human behavior for a living, and these experiences have given me unique insights into places, people, and culture. With over a decade of travel behind me, I increasingly realized one thing, that we cannot see everything. So whatever we see, we must see deeply. Because as the film of memory decays, the imprints which will stand the test of time are the ones felt by the immersion of the senses, not by fleeting encounters with them. Postcards from Nowhere is an immersion into the world of slow travel, one story at a time. Tune in every Thursday on the IVM Podcasts app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Welcome back. You're still listening to Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch. And the show we're talking about today is called The Family Man, a show we absolutely love, which rests on the broad, amazing, very, very strong shoulders of Manoj Bajpayee. So let me tell you a little bit about the show. Manoj Bajpayee plays Shrikant Tiwari, who actually works for an intelligence agency called TASC, spelled as TASC. His wife and children think that he's a loser who has a desk job in some sort of an intelligence agency. But in reality, Manoj Bajpayee is hidden from them that he actually is sort of like an Indian spy, field officer who's constantly dealing with terrorists, who's constantly dealing with guns and bullets. And of course, another interesting element is that the team and the people around him, right? So one, of course, is Sharib Hashmi, who sort of plays his second in command. And Sharib Hashmi, of course, comes in for comic relief very often. The show is set across basically where, Manoj Bajpayee is investigating a particular terrorist who's going to be doing this massive attack.
They tell us several times.
They tell us that several times.
Yeah,
that's the only bad dialogue writing over there. कि मतलब कुछ बहुत बड़ा होने वाला है, sort of becomes a joke. And Manoj and his entire team have to crack down on what is this कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है. Meanwhile, there are also multiple sidetracks. I mean, his wife is played by the absolutely amazing Priyamani. I mean, she brings such depth to what is actually such a cliched housewife or struggling mom kind of character. The kids are funny. The kids have their own tracks as well. It's overall one of those shows that blends beautifully the marriage of a spy thriller, an action thriller, and a comedy.
Yeah, and I also think that at a very premise level it works. It's basically, it's True Lies, if you think about it. I don't know whether that's where they were inspired from, but if the closest reference that I can think of to Family Man in a very action movie format is True Lies, which is basically Arnold Schwarzenegger, his family thinking of him as being this sort of an executive at some company, but he's actually a spy. And I think that you're right. It creates a very interesting sort of base to fly off in to begin with. Also because what the show does really well is that it shows the plight of a middle-class man, which is also why Manoj Bajpayee is so great in the character. Because if this was a feature film, there would always be moments in the show where the guy would be projected as this completely sort of masculine,
larger-than-life alpha male
kind of a guy, and Manoj Bajpayee plays it totally real, which I completely love. And all his issues are very basic. It's what any middle-class man would have to deal with, whether it's, say, for example, the paying of an electricity bill, or about ensuring that all your groceries have been bought, or the kids have been picked up from school. All those elements, and you can't have anyone better than Manoj Bajpayee doing that. Having said that, I have to say that it took me at least 4 episodes to entirely really get into Family Man, because I feel that while I really enjoyed the setup of the first episode, that entire sort of balance between there being a story that's unfolding parallelly about this big terror attacks that's going to take place, which Shrikant's working on, and the fact that there is this pressure from the wife who's a school teacher, and the fact that they have shared responsibility. I feel that entire track sort of went on for a little bit longer. Rather, what I'd like to say is that the entire terror element sort of kicks in really well. It's not like it's absent, but I feel that it really starts working. I remember when we watched the trailer, Janice, and I remember us laughing during some of those family scenes, and I remember us discussing that we know that with Rajan DK making it and Bajpayee playing it, that they're going to completely nail the family part of it. Have they nailed the spy aspect of it? And that's where Family Man really works, although I believe that kicks in a little later. It kicks in around the end of 4th, early 5th episode mark.
Yeah.
And then the show just flies.
It's almost like watching, in a sense, like, 2 parts. Because initially...
But that could be deliberate.
I feel like it's nice that they've taken their own sweet time setting up this real world that Manoj Bajpayee's character lives in, where he's got the nagging wife who's always disappointed in him. He's got the kids who are like, gali de na, gali wo thok ke kya, gali do usko. I love those moments.
Yeah, I think the kids, I love the way they showed the kids on the show, because I have had this pet peeve about how kids in our films and TV shows are always badly represented. But on this show, they were like really quirky, funny characters.
Yeah, and the thing is that, even Sharib Hashmi initially, I was like, listen, I really hope they do more with him than just give him like lines and jokes.
Trying to impress the new girl.
Yeah, trying to impress. Like some of there are all those cliches written in there. But the thing is that even those first 4-5 episodes, because Manoj Bajpayee just plays it so real. I mean, I remember in the first episode only, in the pilot, he's sort of having to deal with the terror, with a sort of like they've caught these terrorists. And even in that moment where Manoj Bajpayee gets that hero moment where he has to eventually, he's convinced the terrorist to put his gun down and he's going in there to talk to him. He plays it so natural.
Yeah.
Like there's not even like, it's like a middle class man only is walking, and which is sort of such a realistic depiction of what our intelligence officers are possibly like.
Yeah. And
to go back to the spy element, I mean, because you raised the question that do they get the entire, terrorist attack, intelligence sort of, desh ko khatra kind of element right? They get it spot on, yeah.
Yeah, I don't just mean in terms of the presentation. I also mean in terms of the writing. So the screenplay has been written by Raj DK and Suman Kumar, who's also a stand-up comedian. And I feel that the screenplay, once the terror sort of aspect takes over, it really falls into place in the sense that every plot twist that follows from episode 6 onwards, there's almost a twist in every episode, and also the story travels, right? From one place, from Kashmir to Balochistan, back to Delhi, Bombay. All of that has been extremely nicely charted out.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge win, because we at the end of the day need to be able to, sort of give them a little bit of leeway, not just Raj and DK, but any creator of an Indian TV show, because we have gotten so used to the Homeland kind of storytelling, where on Homeland they do not spoon feed at all. Right? Ideally, I would have liked Family Man to have been completely bereft of any sort of, like for example, that dialogue that we spoke of where they say more than once कि कुछ बहुत बड़ा होने वाला है. That is such a typical Hindi movie line that it seems out of place in a show like Family Man, only because everything else around it is so intelligent.
Evolved, yeah.
But when I think about it, maybe, I mean, you don't know if that was a creative call taken because they don't want to completely alienate Indian audiences. And, so they've kept those slightly cliched elements. And this is just one example. There are a few others as well. But I think the show works best when it is sort of trying to stay true to what they're trying to achieve. For example, there is this really small scene of him being in Pakistan, on a mission, and he's traveling with a spy, an Indian spy who's been living in Pakistan for years. It's just that character gets just a 2-3 scene arc.
Yeah.
But even his conversation with Shrikant is so interesting. He talks about how he misses the country, but at the same time coming back. Like that encapsulates the life of a spy in that one scene where he says that it's almost like now these are my people, but if they find out what I've done, they'll kill me. It's almost like the Sacha Baron Cohen track in The Spy, and they managed to encapsulate that in one scene only here. And I have to give out a shout out to Sumit Arora, who's this really talented dialogue writer who wrote the dialogues of Stree, is somebody who now I've gotten to know and become friends with. And I feel that there are certain scenes that he's written so well. Like, for example, there's this moment where Shrikant Tiwari basically nabs a Pakistani terrorist, and then he makes a exchange offer with him saying that if he gives out the names of whatever information it is that he's trying to get, he'll probably send him off to a Saudi Arabia kind of a place. And there's this pause, and then the guy says that I want to go to Sudan because the weather there is really great. And then Manoj Bajpayee, being Manoj Bajpayee, says, "Haan kya? Bahut acha hai kya?" I'm saying that it's like they have the that ability that Sumit has beautifully. He also showed that in Stree, where he combined comedy with horror to infuse humor in a dramatic thriller like Family Man. And that's also typical of Raj and DK in terms of the stuff that they've done in the past. I think that is its real victory, to be able to keep you hooked and entertained, and, infusing humor in the most unlikely situations.
I think this is a lesson most Indian makers, whether you're making a TV show, whether you're making a film, need to think about. That every heavy film, and by heavy film I mean that whether you're making a drama, whether you're making an action thriller, or whether you're making something on a dark subject, everything needs a little bit of a light hand when it comes to humor. You need humor in all aspects of this. Like, I mean, just to give you a really, like, we're digressing, but I'm saying we watched War, for example, right? And War has all the makings of your typical pot boiler. The only, I mean, there are lots of other things to debate and talk about when it comes to the film, but the only one thing I sorely missed throughout the film was that you had so many opportunities to create humor in lots of situations, and you just never took it.
Yes, like they're taking themselves too seriously. Yeah, but I think there's a fine line between funny and witty, and I think that's what Family Man gets. I think there is wit in the show. It's not necessarily needing to be funny all the time, but I also feel like the first season has set the tone from what you can. So it's almost like now they have a bigger responsibility in upcoming seasons where they make sure that this perfect balance of, drama and thrill and humor sort of continues. Before we wrap up the Family Man conversation, I also liked the fact that the main villain on the show, or the big plot that he has on the show,
Musa,
is one where he's essentially, there's this really nice conversation between him and another character where
another terrorist.
The plan basically is to not bomb a city, but to sort of, essentially infiltrate a city with a certain poisonous gas, a la Chernobyl
and Bhopal gas tragedy.
Yeah, and that's what they use. So they use the Bhopal gas tragedy analogy to explain it to audience, which is great. But I like the fact that they are, it sort of subverts their entire. Actually, now that I think of it, they kept saying कि कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है, कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है, but then they subverted it themselves by the terrorists doing something so simple, intelligent, and I think it's almost like what the terrorist does is what Raj and DK and the other writers have done on the show, is that rather than trying to make it big and sort of impress you with scale, they've just kept it very simple and intelligent, and I think that's what makes Family Man works.
I also want to give a quick shout out to all the cast members. Priyamani is in great form. I mean, I love the fact that she looks so real, she's styled so really. I mean, there's not a moment where you feel like she's been over glamorized, or that, the acting is out of her comfort zone. She's so natural. You really believe that she and Manoj are like married, and that they have these kind of squabbles on a regular basis. The kids are well cast. I mean, they give the right impact in terms of whether it's infusing humor or creating some tense situations. I like the casting of Sharat Kelkar. Very interesting again as a sort of mysterious character in Priyamani's life. You're not really sure still about what he's doing, and I think they're going to do more. Like, they're going to do something bigger with him in the next season. Sharib Hashmi, of course, dependable actor. You always knew he was.
I just want to say that unlike what you said, I don't think Sharib Hashmi is just a comic relief. Of course, he's the funny guy on the show, but I like the fact that even like when you see him in his workspace, he's committed to the job, and that's very important. That you can't have a character perform a certain role in a certain way throughout a storyline, because they have to react to situations that are presented to them. And the biggest shout out for me goes out to Neeraj Madhav,
who plays Musa.
Well, he plays this really. Actually, he's the one who plays the mysterious character. He is a mix of something that's really good and someone who's really bad, and I think it's a really great character that was written to begin with.
His character is so complicated because at no point does he give away a truly villainous feel, neither does he give a totally. You're always a little confused about what his next move is. But I got
to say that they were heavily inspired by The Usual Suspects, and I think that Family Man is actually a combination of these several genre films, whether it's True Lies or Usual Suspects, or of course Homeland, which is like the benchmark for all spy related shows. But having said that, normally I would get irritated by there being these sort of, if I felt like the story was being lifted or they were being copied. But I feel they managed to, while being inspired by these films and TV shows, create something original and something that you can really get behind.
Yeah.
So that was Family Man. It's out on Amazon. Diwali is around the corner. If you haven't watched it yet, it's actually the perfect binge watch show to sort of see on Diwali.
Kafi mazedar, kafi time pass, kafi family.
And on the other side, we are going to talk about another family show. This one's called Yeh Meri Family.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.
Alright, we're talking about Indian shows we love, and since Diwali is around the corner, we thought we'd recommend a bunch of shows that you should possibly watch with your family. So in the last segment, we talked about The Family Man. Kafi matlab wordplay ho raha hai, family zyada ho raha hai. The other show is Yeh Meri Family, yet another title with the word family in it. Ani and I loved watching Yeh Meri Family. It's just 8 episodes long. It's been made by TVF. It stars the amazing Akarsh Khurana, who is Ani's current co-collaborator, as well as a dear friend. And of course, the fabulous Mona Singh. We watched Mona Singh in a bunch of shows when we were young. And after a really long break, we were finally watching on Yeh Meri Family. Yeh Meri Family is just like, if you're a 90s kid who grew up in India, you are going to relate with all the themes of Yeh Meri Family. Whether it is what you did in school, about having those typical birthday parties, about not having your dad embarrass you, about, those young crushes. Yeh Meri Family is like the kind of nostalgia trip you want.
Yeah. And actually, Mona Singh is an actor I had never watched. I'd heard of her as being this lead actor.
You've never seen a single episode of Jassi Jassi Koi
I have
nahi?
never watched an episode of Jassi ever.
What?
And so I had never seen Mona Singh act, but I always found her to be a very sort of endearing personality, and which is why I really enjoyed her performance on Yeh Meri Family, because it's more interesting, because Yeh Meri Family, when you think about it, is a show that could have gotten very close to the entire TV soap kind of a setup, because at the end of the day, it's a story about a family. When you see an actor like Mona Singh, you wonder if it's going to take the soapy route. And while she plays that sort of Indian mother,
overbearing, nagging Indian mother.
She's not. I don't think she was nagging in the film.
Yeah,
I think she was
the
average Indian mother. I think Yeh Meri Family, the reason I liked it, the whole purpose of Yeh Meri Family, and it's seen through the perspective of this character called Harshu, played by Vishesh Bansal. So this 12-year-old guy is actually the main protagonist of the show, and the entire show unfolds from his perspective and point of view. And this is a kid growing up in the 90s. So for all of us, anyone who's above the age of 30, you totally relate to the problems that this guy faces, whether it's it's his performance in academics, or the fact that he's facing competition from an older brother.
Yeah. Shout out to my brother Sean, who I thought of while watching the show, because even though we're like female and male siblings, all the issues with older siblings are just the same, na? They want to be good in front of the parents. They always want the best part of the room. They always want the best side of the bed. They always want everything is better for the older sibling, I think.
Yeah, I think.
And then the older siblings complain that we younger siblings take everything.
I feel like the show is extreme. It feels very lived in. It's like almost writer and creator Sameer Saxena actually is talking about experiences he had growing up. And that's what makes it work, because it's relatable. I also, when it started off, it happens with a lot of Indian shows where you watch an episode or two and you're really charmed by it, and then you feel like the charm is going to wear off.
Yeah.
What Yeh Meri Family does really, really well is that it manages to, it's almost like watching a great independent film about a family. And it has, you mentioned Akarsh Khurana, of course, is somebody who I'm working with at the moment and is a friend. He's a collaborator. He's a director. I'm writing one of his scripts. But he's also a very gifted actor. I, in fact, keep taunting him and telling him to take on more acting roles. But the guy does so many things that he doesn't find the time to, act. But he did this role on Yeh Meri Family, and he has this one scene on the show, which has gone viral because this is something that I see being shared on social media all the time, where essentially every kid growing up in the 90s, and this includes me, wondered what it would be like when your dad entered a cricket field, because you play cricket every day. Cricket is a religion for you, and then your father enters the field and you are like, you're just hoping against hope that he doesn't embarrass you in front of your friends. And he's this very papa kind of character who only operates in his papa sort of ways. But then when he ends up taking the crease, he ends up being like this great batsman. And it's almost like the son is now seeing the father in a different light.
I'm proud of my father.
Yeah, and it's such a relatable, great moment because you have experienced those things. And there's just one example.
So let's be honest, let's rephrase that. All Indian boys will relate to that growing up in the 90s.
But
I was not in any sort of cricket field. This was a very
boy show. Let's be frank, it's about two brothers. And so I don't think it's trying to now be woke and balance out the entire boy-girl phenomenon here. But it's unfortunate there's no other season. And from what I know, the reason there's no other season is because the kids have grown up now. And
Harshu bada ho gaya. And Harshu bachcha nahi play kar sakta.
Yeah, but Yeh Meri Family is it's 7 episodes, not 8, and it's on Netflix, and it's a very easy, breezy watch. And it's like a really heartwarming Hindi film broken up into 7 episodes.
It's like a big warm hug. I mean, especially if you're sort of away from your family right now, or you're living in a different city and you just want to feel a little nostalgic and happy and like a little feel good and warm inside, watch Yeh Meri Family. It's the perfect kind of evening binge watch show.
That was Janice and I speaking about 2 of our favorite Indian shows in recent times. One is, they are both, family shows, but as different as chalk and cheese. One's called The Family Man, has got Manoj Bajpayee, and it's created by Raj and DK. The other one's created by Sameer Saxena for TVF. It's called Yeh Meri Family, and it's got Mona Singh, Akarsh Khurana, and 2 lovely kids.
3 lovely kids. You've forgotten the little girl. She was also so cute.
No, also his best friend, who was just like a really cute character. But I meant like the main characters.
Basically, dono shows dekho.
But watch both shows. One's out on Amazon, the other on Netflix. Diwali time is the best time to probably binge watch on at least one of the 2 shows.
And if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM app or on ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media handles. We're at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to write to Ani and me, of course, you can always reach us on our social media handles. I'm at JaniceSec85 and Aniruddha is at Aniguha on Instagram and Twitter. Diwali is just around the corner. The festive season setting in. Please play lots of Teen Patti, win lots of money, drink lots of daru, eat lots of good food, all your diets, and we'll see you soon next week. Same time, same place. Time nahi, same jagah. Bye.
Filter coffee is a fascinating beverage. You need to pick the right beans, blend them in the right proportion, roast them to perfection, and slow brew at the right temperature to get the perfect cup. Which is exactly like great conversations as well. You need to track down the most interesting minds, get them into their zone, and settle down for an unhurried, unscripted chat. And coffee for me is always, always, always best enjoyed with friends. I'm Karthik Nagarajan, and do share my table as I meet some of the most interesting people I know and sit them down for a strong cup of coffee and an even stronger conversation. Join me every Wednesday for a freshly brewed episode. This is not frappe. This is the Filter Coffee Podcast.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.